Hi everyone. Welcome. So today we're going to be talking about level design. But first, some announcements. So our workshop is Friday. We're going to be making our own platformer. I'm going to send out a pre-made package game in Godot, and we're going to be messing around in that. It's going to be in our normal workshop room, Building 6, room 113 and 14. We're also going to be streaming it on Discord. So please have Godot installed 3.5, and I'll send it out later. So we're also having our Halloween game jam 2 weeks away. It's going to be on Friday, October 14th to Sunday, October 16th from 3 p.m. to 3 p.m. It's a great learning experience for game development or just putting a project on your resume. Oh yeah, can everyone hear fine? Okay, cool. So we're doing bucket hat interest form. So please fill that out if you want a hat or don't. We want it done by October 4th. So you can scan the QR link.
And any of the links from the announcements are also in the meeting general chat. Also, the attendance form is there, so if all of you can fill it out sometime today, that would be great.
Yes, do that. Okay, so we're talking about level design. So I guess first off, just what level design is. It refers to stages, maps, and missions of a game. You're creating an interactive situation for the environment to challenge your player. So when you're creating your level, some things you want to think about is like what are your limits, your parameters. Your level's going to differ depending on what kind of game you're working on. Kind of obviously your platformer game is not going to look the same as a top-down or a first and third-person kind of game. Something to think about is who your target audience is. So if you're aiming it towards kids, you probably want it to be a little bit simpler. Puzzles aren't gonna take a lot of time. Stuff like that, just keep that in mind when you're making your levels. Also, you want to take into account your player's abilities. So stuff like their movement speed, their jump height, physical height, enemies, stuff like that, because you need to work with that. Like, can your player make a jump between a hole you've created? Or can they jump up to the next level that you want them to get to? So you want your level to work around the abilities, basically. Can they make the jump? Can they outrun an enemy? Does their vision allow them to see the next step? Or are they just jumping blindly? Usually you don't want them to just jump blindly into the abyss. You don't want them to learn by dying. It's usually best if they know where they're going next. And you can have guidelines to that too, like colors and lights to let people know where they're going, or arrows, that's good too. So when you're making the level, the best way to do it is plan it out first. You can just sketch it out with a pen and paper, or you can create like a game design document. We haven't really talked about that. It's a software document that serves as like a blueprint. You can like plan out your whole game in it. You can look up some different ways to do that as well. So every level, every map has to have a reason or a purpose, like why is it there, otherwise it's just there to exist. So kind of ask yourself what you want the player to do. If you need them to like progress the story, do you need to railroad them into one direction? And if you need to, like you don't want them to go back, you can use point of no return, which is, I'll talk about that in a bit. Basically they just can't return. You want to give them an opportunity to use their abilities. So like double jump, maybe if they like just unlock double jump or they always had it, you can make a platform like higher up so that they can use that. Or if they have a power up and they can break through a wall or something like that, you can use your level around that. Or if it's just like a Mario Brothers map where you're just moving from point A to point B, that's your purpose as well. So. Okay, there are different kinds of level creation. First one is hand design environments, kind of what I was talking about, something where you plan it out and you have a goal or a puzzle that you want the player to do. Or you have randomly generated, which are kind of like roguelikes, but it's different each time, or Minecraft Seeds, also different each time you like load it in. So then we have playable level design. This includes gameplay mechanics that are scripted events, obstacles, and objectives for the player to complete. So, for example, pretty much like Life is Strange, you can interact with the objects, and sometimes the story changes depending on that, or sometimes you can just pick something up, like Left 4 Dead, they have the gas cans and stuff like that, in Undertale, you can light up mushrooms, and there's like the ice puzzle where you have to stand on the X's and make them O's and stuff like that. Those are playable level design. And then we have standalone game environment. This is it's just for it to exist and to set the environment and add to the story. So Firewatch, there are some things you can interact with, but it's kind of like an open world thing, where it exists. Same thing with Smash Bros. There's nothing to interact with, it's just platforms. Basically, that's the level. And then you can also have environmental storytelling. Your story doesn't have to have like a overall story, but just art of arranging and careful selection of the objects available in a game world. So they suggest a story to the player who sees them. So just, I guess, think about where you want your game to take place. This comes into mostly your art in the game. So if you're making like a Spider-Man game, you're probably going to be in New York, and there's probably going to be cities, or cars, and cranes and trains and stuff. Or if you're in a fantasy world, there's probably going to be fantasy creatures, maybe like dragons, other fantasy stuff, space, aliens. What are the rocks called? Meteoroids? Yeah. Basically, show, don't tell. Valorant, Overwatch, they include lore in their maps. I don't know anything about Valorant, but Overwatch does. I know that they do that. They have Watchpoint Gibraltar, that's one of their old bases, and it's abandoned, and they have their symbols everywhere. Stuff like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna have a couple of examples. I'm also gonna have more examples to show on Friday, but this is just the Among Us map. We all know it. I think they have good levels, in my opinion. So basically, bless you, yeah. Every room has its own purpose, basically, and it has weaknesses and strengths for the player and the imposter to use. So there are specific places where you're, I guess, directing the character to go into so that they have a chance to die. And there's opportunities for them to, I guess, solve the mystery, essentially. But it's a good, I guess, example of directing your character in a way. This is from GMTK's Why You Probably Didn't Get Lost in Metroid Dread. They have a good level design series, which I recommend. This video's in the links, which I recommend you watch it. But basically, this is where he talks about point of no return. So basically, the character slides into this hole right here, and they drop down, and they're a level below. So they can no longer physically go back at that point, because if you want your character to progress in a story, you need them to keep moving, basically. And point of no returns is a good way to keep your character going in that direction and making sure they don't get lost if your map's too confusing. And then you just have Super Mario Bros., which is very simple. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. This is kind of what we're doing on Friday, something simple, nothing too complicated, but you can just see it's a point A to point B kind of level, and you have your obstacles and you have things you can use and stuff like that to get around, and then you have holes, and you need to make sure that Mario can jump over those holes, because if he can't, there's no way to progress in the level, and it's just broken. And then here, point of no return, the only way to end is with your win condition, which is grabbing the map. Just something really simple, doesn't have to be anything complicated. Okay, that was actually really fast. So today we're going to be doing team check-ins. Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Isabella. All right, so. All right, so we're going to be going into team check-ins. Essentially, how this is going to work, each team is just sort of going to give a little report of what they've been working on. You don't have to, since it's the first one, we're not expecting much. It's just have you guys met? Do you guys need any help with anything, any sort of direction with how you want to take your game and where do you want it to go? So we're gonna start off with Team 1, which I believe is Team 1 is Planetary Pursuits. I don't think I see Sam here. Is there anyone representing Planetary Pursuits? Okay.
Do I like introduce myself?
Yeah, you could come here and talk to Mike.
Alright. I'm Lou. I'm writing lead and like co-lead of Planetary Pursuits, and we just kind of started setting up teams and getting a rough like schedule of like how we're going to start moving about things. And I know the writing team also like talked a bit more about like when we went more in depth about what we're going to do. But yeah, that's what we've done.
Nice. All right. And then next up, we have Cluster Magic. Is there a representative from Cluster Magic here or in the team chat? All right, you come. Oh yeah. Yeah, you can come up. Thank you.
So our team basically met for the first time, and then we got a basic timeline / responsibilities we wanted to do for both programming and art. And now we're just kind of working on that.
All right, cool. Sounds good. All right. And then next up, Circle of Growth, Team 3. I think you're actually in the chat. Let me see. Yeah. Wait. Is he talking? Josh, I'm not sure if we could hear you. Give us a second. Josh? Okay, no worries. Do you want me to go over it for you? Or do you just want to type it out in here? Okay, yeah, so for Team 3, we had our first meeting. We set up the Trello, and then I think we have the movement already implemented, and then the artists have checked in with each other, and then I think we're having another meeting later today. Yeah. All right, and then next up, we have Ultra Hardcore Platforming Roguelike. I love saying our team's name.
Thank you. I'm Annabelle, the lead and one of our programmers. So far, we've gotten the player movement down. We're starting work on the item system. We're starting work on the level generation as well. We're mostly done with the player art and the player movement controls, and we're still working on a name for the game.
All right, thank you. And then next up, Beat Shot.
Team lead, and our first 2 meetings have basically just been us discussing what we want our MVP to actually look like, and then also just covering the basics of Unity, and then also talk about learning how to use GitHub, because as I said before, I don't really know how to use it, so it's a learning process for me as well.
Of course. All right, cool. Thank you. And then if any of the teams need help with GitHub or setting up that stuff, you can contact us. Just let us know, and then we could like go join one of your meetings and then help walk you through it and all of that. All right, and then the next team is Demons and wait, yeah, Team 3, Demons and Drum Machines.
Okay, so for Demons and Drum Machines, so far we've assigned some basic tasks to some people. We also have the 3D models done for the splicer and radio, as well as some concept art and references for the studio that the game will take place in. We've also been working on planning out our first meeting. Josh has also gotten down the basic mechanics for the cassette, as well as the splicer.
Cool. And then next up, Team 8, Spell Stew.
Hello, I am Charlotte, the for Spell Stew, previously Artificer Defense. We've had our first meeting. From what you can tell, we had a rebranding, and so far we're just learning how to use Godot, but we have divvied up tasks and whatnot, so yeah.
Cool. And then last but not least, we have LoveQuest.
We've planned our first meeting, and we've discussed a few odd things. That's about it.
All right, cool. All right, and then I think that's it for the most part. Please make sure you sign in into the meeting general chat. Also, one more announcement I think we forgot to place up here. Next week, we're going to be having a guest speaker from one of our alumni. We can't, unfortunately, we're not allowed to record the meeting, so we'll have the notes available after the meeting if you're not able to come, and the slides will be posted as well. But if you want to come, she'll be here in person as well, so it's a great opportunity for you to come and see more of the financial side of the gaming industry and that sort of stuff. Yeah, and then if you guys want to meet with your teams right now, this is a perfect time to do it. Aside from that, I think that's it for the meeting. Thank you very much.